I'm Iris Johnston. Thanks for joining us for another segment of Page to Screen's Tennessee Star series, where we talk about screenwriting and independent filmmaking in the great state of Tennessee. Joining us today is a Tennessee Star, Robert Hamilton. Hi, Robert, welcome.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. Great. So, Robert, you wrote and directed and produced a short film called Marbles.
Correct.
All right. Pitch it to me, please.
Well, about 8 years ago, we had just finished our last feature film, and our sales agents at the time said, you know, in case this hits, unfortunately it didn't, have a story ready for your next one. And so I thought, I wanted to make a movie about something that people love and make them terrified of it. And so there's a long story to this, but eventually that became Marbles. And I thought, what would be something that hasn't been done and I could do? And the answer hit me. It was music. And so we had written a feature back then. It didn't get made. And came to Franklin. I'm a movie trailer editor by trade.
Okay.
And so I'm, you know, kind of got in the groove of doing that, got away from making film, and met my next door neighbor, and said, "What's up?" And he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a director." And he said, "I'm a cinematographer."
Huh.
And we both went, "Oh, shit, I hope they're good," or sorry.
Did you go in and like?
I looked at his work and I was like, "Thank God." And so he had a project fall through, I had a project fall through, and I said, "You know what? I have a story that I wanted to tell for a long time. And I know you're doing a lot of music videos and you want to do narratives, and I think this would be really fun for you." So I pitched him the story of Marbles. And the story is about a young record store clerk who late one night is itemizing and putting away some donated records. And, you know, she said it's a typical night of doing inventory. And one record catches her eye. And she goes, "You know what, I'm going to play this one." And she plays it, and it's really creepy lyrics, and the final lyric is threatening. And so she does a little research on who the singer-songwriter was, and it turns out he was a serial killer and also a blues musician who was put to death in the electric chair in 1938. And on death row, wrote one final song because the warden thought he could make a quick buck. And it turns out anybody that listens to that record ends up killing themselves.
Oh.
And she, to her horror, discovers this after listening to it.
Oh no.
And so that's the premise.
That is a great premise. It is a great idea.
Okay.
Let's take a look at the clip
Absolutely.
of the short. Great. Yay. That is so well done.
Thank you.
That is great. So you kind of touched on the idea for it. I don't know if you want to dig into that a little bit more.
I loved the idea, you know, movies like Jaws made people afraid of water. You know, a movie like It Follows made people afraid of sex. And so these things that are like innate and universal, of things that are pleasurable, or things we like, I love flipping that. And so that's, you know, music, you know, can soothe the soul, it can right a wrong,
Right.
it can do a lot of things, but what if it can torture you?
Right.
And and then anytime you hear that crackle of a vinyl, you're wondering what's coming next, and you're like, I don't know if it's worth listening to this.
Yes, that's great.
And,
Way to take something we love.
I wanted to just have people cringe at the sound, you
Right,
know, and
right.
because I think that's what horror is. It's the unknown. It's what's coming next. You know, it's what's.
And
in
I
the
love
dark.
marbles, right? The metaphor, losing your marbles, like the fact she's gonna. I mean, I can tell, like she's about to. You know, it's
gonna be tough on her
gonna
after
be
that
hard
point.
on
Yeah.
her. Oh, no. Okay, so from script to screen, how long did that take you? Here we go.
In regards to the short script, I started. My neighbor and I had that conversation in July, and we shot, I believe, November 14th of last year. So what, three and a half months? Something
Okay.
like that. Yeah, it was quick.
So
but
that part happened really fast.
it did, because you know, we were raising the money in pre-production. You know, we made it for about 20 grand, so we knew we could get that raised. So we greenlit ourselves pretty much.
So let's talk a minute about your process for writing the script. Were there note cards? Was there an outline? Did you do a full-blown treatment? Just walk me through it.
Yeah, it was actually a short based on a previously written feature. So when I wrote the original feature, yes, note cards, all those things. I do a 10-page treatment, and each one of those each page comes about 10 pages to make a 100-page script. So long story short, it was more about compressing an idea that I already had and taking out the essence of that story and making it into a 15-minute version of it. So for me, I already knew who my lead character was as a character. I knew who my bad guy was as a character and his backstory. So it was a very different process than I've ever done before. But it was really enjoyable because it made, and I think it's important for all writers, what is essential, absolutely essential to tell your story. And I was able to pull those pieces out and put that into this to tease all those elements while telling a full story in 15 minutes and making people hopefully want to see an expanded version of that story.
Would you say this is the first short you have written, or had you written shorts before? I know this one came from a longer feature screenplay.
My first ever film was called The Patient, and that was a short that I did in 2008 when I really had no idea what I was doing, but I liked the story.
Yeah.
And I was about to move to California and go to film school. That's a whole nother story we don't need to get into.
Okay.
And I said, you know what, I better make something before I go. So I raised $5,000 and made this story and wrote a short, which I love the story, but as every student film, it's too long. And but the essence of it's good. Everything else has been pretty much feature. I think at this point that might change a little bit because I like what we did here, especially as a show for what we could do for a longer version of it.
Right. Aren't shorts having a little renaissance right now, maybe?
I think there's so much
I
talent
love
out there.
shorts. I really do. I mean, I love features too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Attention spans are short. There's a ton of great stuff. The advent of streaming for TV, the quality is so good.
Yeah.
So if I start a movie and 5 minutes into it, I can tell you if I trust the filmmaker or not.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather just have a full film in 5 minutes. And I think it's just a great genesis for young talented filmmakers to make something really good. And you know, we were part last night of I think there were 7 short films all filmed in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And the
fun.
talent is here.
I know.
It was so good. We were the second film, and I watched the first one. I went, all right.
We're right. You're
we
in
got
a good
some
group.
Yeah,
You're
we
in a
got
good
some
group.
challenge
It
here.
is.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So your backstory, how did you get into filmmaking? You kind of touched around it, maybe, you know, law school, maybe film school, but walk me through it.
Yeah, I was getting a bachelor's degree in political science to become a lawyer. At the same time, I had to take a few classes outside of that realm, and I always loved movies. So I took a Hitchcock class at the exact same time that I took American New Wave, 1968 to 77, when all these young auteur directors that we now know as the best directors of that era were given money to make whatever movie they wanted because the studios had kind of collapsed a little bit. And so that was the best combination ever. You have the master of suspense, everything is about filmmaking, and then these guys that are such storytellers. And about a couple weeks into that, I said, the world's got enough lawyers. And I still hold true to that one. And I think the world needs more storytellers. And so, and it was fun. And the teacher was the same teacher for both. He loved the backstory of the filmmaking.
If you don't mind me asking, what school was this?
Franklin and Marshall College.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Okay. Yeah. It was really the teacher.
Yeah.
It's good teachers are so important, and this guy, he was so passionate about film and the process of making a film, not just what was on screen, but what happened off screen, that it was so intriguing.
You gotta love the whole thing.
Oh man, and it's a miracle that any feature film, especially, but any short film, is even made with how many moving parts there are.
Takes a lot of people. It takes a village. So what are you working on right now, Robert?
Well, we are working on the feature version of Marbles.
Okay, cool.
This short was finished in March of last year, and immediately I dove into, I had previously written a version of this story called Earworm. And that was in 2015, and I moved to Tennessee in 2021. I'm older, I have a family, and I loved the essence of that original feature, but stories kind of leave you behind over time. You become a different person, and I was like, I'm in a town that's all about music. My protagonist needs to be a musician, and the background of the story of Marbles is he's kind of like a Robert Johnson character, sold his soul to the devil for this talent, but he owes him something for it. And our protagonist is this person who has extreme integrity and stubbornness, almost to her detriment, of she will not be put into a box of country music radio.
Nice.
She's going to be a singer-songwriter. And I was like, I love this. You have the guy that took the easy road and the protagonist who's taking the hard road, and face them against each other. So she works in a record shop, to make ends meet, to pay her rent, it's similar to what's in the short, the catalyst of the film, and then we've just really expanded the world. And so right now we are raising funds. We're getting there. We plan to shoot in December, and we're acting like we're green lit, and really, really excited for it. I think this story as a short is a lot of fun, but what it really leaves the audience for, that was our goal, and I think after last night's screening, we got a lot of this feedback. We want more.
Right. Well, in the clip I saw, the set design, the cinematography, it looks like it's at the top of its game. It looks really great.
It's Michael Patty's our cinematographer, and he's my neighbor, and he's fantastic.
That's the neighbor. That's great. Well, shout out to him. That's awesome. What advice would you give to people who are trying to find their voice in screenwriting?
I tell this to not necessarily writer-directors, but writers. A lot of writers, and I've read a lot of these scripts because prior to Marbles, I was just out there kind of reading scripts outside of things I had written, just to, maybe I'll find something fun that I want to make.
Yeah.
And a lot of writers are taught to kind of leave stuff off the page and not tell the director how to direct. And yes, camera movements do that. But your job is to inspire the director. If I'm reading something that you wrote, I want to see it. I want to feel it. I want to be immersed in the story like I'm reading a book almost. Not written like a book, but that my mind is working. I'm directing your works in my mind.
Yeah.
And I would suggest to every young writer, paint that picture. If it's not exciting on page, it's not exciting the reader.
Okay.
And so make a way to do it efficiently.
Right.
Don't write giant blocks.
Yeah.
But you can always tighten language, and you can always build a world and do it that way. So
a couple of well-placed something will
Yeah.
give the person watching me like, oh, I see that.
And a director wants that. I can tell you from being a director, reading other people's work. I optioned a script a few years ago.
You get excited.
It was fantastic. I'm turning the page, going, what's going on?
This would be so fun to shoot.
I'm seeing the images in my head, like, oh, I would do this angle, this and this and this, and what's the story? And I knew it was a great one to option because it excited me, and I was just the reader, And so that's what I would tell them. Write something that excites people and make sure that they know you're building the world. This is your idea. It's for somebody else to maybe translate and put on screen, but you're never going to get past the point of pass on the script if you don't excite those people because they're reading a lot.
Well, this is great advice. Thank you.
If you, especially if you're a writer-director or writer wannabe director, or a writer that wants their film directed.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of directors out there that are reading a lot of stuff. If you want something to be made, go make it. Write something, and also very much study what it takes to make a movie, and write something within a budget that can be done. Write something in a single location. There are wonderful, amazing stories that take place in very small areas.
Right.
And go make it. Because a lot of times, even if you don't want to direct in the future, the way that a director is going to find you as a screenwriter is you might make a 7-minute short film. And it's great, and the director goes, that writing, who's that writer? That was really, really good. There's a really interesting aspect to the way they put a story together. I'd like to reach out to them, see if they have anything else. So, you know, a lot more people want to watch than read. So if you can put something together, and then maybe you do want to be a director after that because it inspires you.
You might learn. Yeah.
But just go make it, you know.
Great
Especially while
advice.
you're young, you know, you
That's
can.
good. Thank you for joining us. Please come back and visit us
I would love to.
anytime. Yeah. Maybe when your feature screens.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you. I am Iris Johnston, and thanks for watching Page to Screen. Keep on writing and keep on learning. Hey.
That was great. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Elvis Wilson. Thanks for joining us for another segment of Page to Screen's Tennessee Stars series, where we're talking about screenwriting and independent film in the great state of Tennessee. Joining us today is a Tennessee star, Bill Cornelius. He's the writer, director, producer of Sorry for the Delay, which recently screened at the Nashville Film Festival. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm great.
Thanks
How are
for
you?
spending some time with us.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, let's talk about your movie. What's the pitch? What's it about?
So, Sorry for the Delay is about a guy who can't sleep at night. He can't sleep in his bedroom, rather, due to a lingering nightmare that continues to exist in his room. But the question is there something in his room, or is this all in his head? And that's the question we unpack in the film.
Very cool. I'd like to see a clip. You want to see a clip?
Yeah,
Let's see a
absolutely.
clip. Roll that clip. Wow, that's intriguing. That's makes me want to watch it. So
That's good.
Where'd you come up with the idea?
In 2020, we were all affected by the pandemic, as we know. A lot of set work had stopped, which was unfortunate. But I needed to scratch that creative itch still. If I couldn't be on set, I had to do something. So what better thing to do than to write? So I sat down, I wrote a number of these little sort of micro short films that were like 2 pages long, 3 pages, just to scratch that itch, get something out there. Sorry for the Delay was one of those scripts. And it was written to sort of be something that could be done with very little resources, that could be done on a shoestring budget, just to flex that muscle again during, the pandemic where we were all down and wondering what the future was going to hold. So it came from that, and it was a really good experience to sort of get out there and be creative again.
Sounds like it came really quickly to you. How long from script to screen did it take you?
So the script was written, I want to say, maybe fall of 2020. I was pitching it around to, production friends in town, just to see who'd want to be involved. And we were all we had that lull from the pandemic, and we wanted to get back on set and start creating again. So I had a really great local crew of guys that I know and have worked with that wanted to come out and do it. And so we shot it in, I believe, the summer of 2022. So it had a little bit of a gestation period before we actually got to set, but it was all a one-day shoot, shot till 2 in the morning, and turned it around pretty quick.
Very cool. I'd love to hear more about your writing process, and also, did you have a lot of iterations of this script? Did you get notes from the wife? What's your process there?
So it was such a short script. It's literally 2 pages long. It's 3 if you count the title page. So it's a very, very short script. It came from my own personal experiences with not getting medication on time and kind of what that does to the brain. So it's writing about what you know, which sometimes comes easier than things you don't know. And really the only thing that changed in the draft over time was there's a big effects piece towards the end of the film at the climax. And it was a matter of what was that going to look like? How are we going to pull it off? I got with my cinematographer, Corey Allen, and we tested a number of things to see if we can pull this effect off. So that changed in the script a little bit to accommodate what we could do and what we couldn't do. But really it didn't go through a ton of changes except that piece.
Very cool. Well, we've heard a bit about your writing process. What about you as a filmmaker? What's your backstory? How did you get into filmmaking? Are you, we're Page to Screen. We'd love to hear more about your screenwriting.
Yeah.
What did you study?
Yeah, so I've been wanting to do this since I was 8 years old. I actually picked up the family camera at 8 and got my friends together and would boss them around and have them play characters that maybe they didn't want to play. And we would make movies, every year. And I did this every year of my life.
You sound like Spielberg.
It's very similar,
Yeah.
yeah. Look up to him a lot. And so I came to Nashville to actually go to the Watkins Film School. So I learned had more formal training, more hands-on training there with how set operates and things of that nature. I actually taught myself how to properly, at least in a format way, do screenwriting when I was in high school. Just kind of Googling what do scripts look like, and there it was. And so I used to write scripts in Microsoft Word, and once I got into film school, more formal training, actually took screenwriting courses to kind of hone that craft a little better. But I love to write. It's very cathartic. It's, even if it's not good per se, it's just the exercise of doing it has been always enjoyable.
Very good. Sorry for the delay. It looks very intriguing. Do you have other projects that you're working on?
Yes. So I have a film. It's a short that we're going to use as a proof of concept for a feature called A Darkened Bliss. It's actually about vampires, and it's about Nashville. So combine those two things, and that's...
I got news for you. There's always been vampires in Nashville. So.
Yes, so I've heard, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we actually did a crowdfunding campaign for it a couple of years ago just to raise some funds. It was fairly successful, but we need a little more to get us started. So we're working on investment right now. It was pitched out in LA, had a very successful pitch to a studio. They didn't ultimately go for the script, but we saw that the pitch was viable. So we're definitely trying to move forward with that next.
Well, I wish you luck on that. That sounds exciting.
Yeah.
There's always stuff that happens on set, or maybe I'd love to hear any nightmares that you might have had in writing the screenplay as well. Any war stories from you?
War stories. So this is something I had to think about a lot because I have been on so many shoots and had so many war story-like experiences. Sorry for the Delay in particular was one of the easier shoots I've had. And maybe that's because I've had so many difficult shoots. Okay. You kind of learn from experience. You don't, touch the stove multiple times.
You learned your lesson.
You learn, yeah.
Yes.
So really the thing with that film was just we shot so late into the night, and I'm not as young as I used to be, so it weighed down on me. But I've had a few experiences with working with high-profile people. They've always been a treat to work with, but I've had some experiences with their handlers, publicists, managers, etc. Getting 7 minutes to shoot an interview, which sounds impossible, So really, really stressful experiences like that I've had a number of, and I've learned to kind of be quick and move on my toes.
Were you the interviewer?
I was, and the
Okay.
director, yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
You know, get your crew ready, line them up and say, this light goes here, this light goes here, let's go in, let's get it done. And high pressure situations where everyone's surrounding you and asking, how's this gonna go? You've got 7 minutes. So I've had more than a few experiences like that I would consider war stories.
It wouldn't be fun if you didn't have those situations.
Yeah, and
it makes it memorable.
Yeah, and you have to really love what you do to even put yourself through that. So
Agreed.
I truly love what I do. It might be stressful at the time, but I come back for more.
Well, we love our younger members of Page to Screen and the Tennessee Screenwriting Association. Do you have any advice for those just starting out, learning craft and filmmaking? What would you say to them?
I would say make sure you really want it. That's the biggest thing.
Because it's work.
It is work.
Yeah, it is work.
And as I just said, it's hard work. It's really stressful. It's not exactly the most forgiving business to be a part of. And it is a business at the end of the day. And there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen sometimes, and there's a lot of creative ideas being exchanged. And it's a lot of hard work, and you have to really want it to dedicate yourself to that work. Because it won't come easy. It never comes easy. And so I would say make sure you want it, and if you do want it, work really hard for it. Have a passion for it.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, passion is everything in this business.
It is. Tell a story that starts with what you know. That's some of the best piece of advice I got when I was in film school, was some of the best writing comes from what you know. And even if it's a fantastical, imaginative film, if you can start at the basis of something familiar to you, you can build out from that. And there's always, you can tell when it's on the screen, when it came from something they experienced or a passion they had. Or
I agree. You can always tell when that person was emotionally tied to their work, and it does mean a lot to the viewer as well as the creator of the content. So, well, thank you so much. That's great advice. Thanks again for visiting with us, and we'd love to have you back with your next project. Please come see us again. So,
thank you.
I'm Elvis Wilson, and thanks for watching Page to Screen. Keep on writing, my friends, and keep on learning.